Hello everybody and welcome to the YouTube character profile upload of Fiz Stape. So what you're about to listen to here is two character profiles recorded 10 years apart. So first off we've got quite a short character profile recorded in November 2012, so quite a long time ago. Apologies for the appalling sound quality. And in there Gemma and I discuss Fiz's early years on the show, and then after that, and you can check the links on the YouTube description underneath to go straight to it if you want to. We've got a much lengthier, more in-depth discussion of the character and what she's been up to in the decade since, and that was recorded just recently in November 2022. So it's quite a long video, this one, so I won't blabber on any longer. Here is our double feature character profile on the lovely Fiz Bomb.
Character profile time. It's Fiz Stape today, or Fiz Brown.
I still think of her as Fiz Brown.
She was born on the 25th of September 1984. Mum, Scylla Battersby Brown. She's got two brothers, Billy Brown and Chesney Brown. I don't know who Billy is.
No, he's in the army or something. I think he was in it for a couple of episodes, but unimportant.
She was married to John Stape in 2009, and she had a little baby girl, Hope, during the tram crash in 2010.
Yes, you can forget that.
The first appearance she made was in 20th of April 2001. She's been in almost 1,450 episodes.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And she's played by Jenny McAlpin.
Yeah.
Alpine. And she first appeared on the street as the 15-year-old foster daughter of Roy and Hayley Cropper.
Yeah, so this was probably about 6 months before I started forcing you to watch the programme.
Right.
So I remember when she came in, and she was also a bit more of a sort of teen tearaway. I remember.
Chavier.
Yeah, absolutely, and she was only brought in for like a 5-episode stint, but it was one of these ones where
they liked the actress. They thought she was brilliant, so they got her to come back.
Yeah, it just goes to show that if you get invited to be a guest character on Coronation Street, you give it your all, because you could come and be on 1,500 episodes.
Let's face it, we've seen more than a few people with bit parts hamming it up like nobody's business. So she left after claiming Roy had acted inappropriately, but she comes back a bit later and says, "Oh no, it's only a joke."
You can't imagine Fiz doing that now, could you? It's been a total personality transplant.
Yeah, she goes to works at Underworld, and the rest of the family come in, Scylla, Chesney, and they end up moving in with Les. Yeah,
and we talked about that when we did Chesney as our character profile back. Was he our first? No, he was our second character profile, I think. So for more on Scylla and co, check episode 2.
So in 2002 she started dating Kirk, and then she moved off to Tyrone the following year.
Yeah, which we talked about a few weeks ago. She was tempting Tyrone away from Maria with chip butties or whatever.
So that's when he was engaged to Maria, and she slept with him in 2004.
Yeah.
And then she was reunited with Kirk.
Yeah. Do you this was I remember she slept with Tyrone, and then Kirk comes and serenades her out of the window with their song, The Real Slim Shady. And I just remember, and I think a lot of people will remember this, Kirk doing, "I'm Slim Shady, yes, I'm the real Shady, all the other Slim Shadys are just imitating."
Oh, he's such a great, really, it's a great overlooked character, isn't he, Kirk?
Yeah, comedy, yeah.
Yeah, a comedy staple.
Yeah.
So, in 2005, it was revealed that Fiz was a school bully when Molly Compton joined.
Yeah.
Who became Molly Dobbs, of course.
Yeah.
So she vowed to get revenge on Fiz by making her life miserable, trying to break up Fiz and Kirk.
Yeah, because when Molly first came into it, she was seemed to be a real nasty piece of work, and she was being horrible to Fiz for apparently no reason. But then it turned out that Fiz was this bully. Yeah.
In 2006, she was reunited with Kirk.
Again.
And he bought her a moped for passing her driving test.
Oh yeah, I know the lols that they've been with that moped.
So she also found out that Scylla had been lying about her cancer.
Yeah, which we've also discussed on the podcast.
Oh gosh. So in 2007 was when Fiz's storylines really began to heat up.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask anyone what's the Fiz storyline you remember, it's the John Stape saga.
Anything to do with John Stape.
Yeah.
He started working as a teacher at Chesney School, and she sort of started moving away from Kirk, but he proposed to her, so she dumped him and went out with John. And later the same year, Scylla went off to live in Las Vegas and left Chesney with Kirk. the same year, 2007, John had an affair with Rosie, and that was when we had the
famous
saucy,
knickers Christmas scene.
Yeah, poor old Fiz got given a pair of really tiny knickers, and meanwhile Rosie was opening a pair of old
Bridget Jones pants.
Yeah. So Fiz thought that he's having an affair, but thought wrongly it was Sally. So she burst into the house demanding explanations.
John was doing English lessons with Sally, wasn't she? She was trying to better herself by getting a GCSE or an A level or something.
She must have a GCSE in English.
I don't know.
Well, she
O level.
She walked in and started demanding explanations, and then everyone realised that it was Rosie who'd been sleeping with John. Kevin was outraged by the fact that the teacher had been sleeping with his teenage daughter and beat him up.
Yeah.
And unexpectedly, completely unexpectedly, because this is a soap and apparently you can go around slapping anyone you like, John actually pressed charges on Kevin, which is really weird for a soap, and Kevin went to prison.
Yeah. And you'd think after that Fiz would say, okay, this John, maybe he's a wrong and he's not the one for me. But the next few years just sees her going back to him again and again and again. She doesn't make necessarily the right choices when it comes to love, does old Fiz, does she?
Nobody does on Coronation Street. So, 2008, Fiz becomes legal guardian of Chesney after Claire Peacock dobs Kirk into social services for basically being a bit of a prat. So she moves in with Chesney to a larger house.
Yeah, so she kind of very much becomes a maternal kind of the mumsy kind of figure. She
transforms, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She starts getting anonymous calls and works out it was from John, and eventually through persistence he wins her back.
Yeah.
And so he goes back with her, and he keeps having to go and feed his grandmother's cat.
Now that was all the storyline when he had Rosie trapped. Why did he kidnap her again? He
kidnapped Rosie to basically pave the way for him and Fiz, because Rosie kept making snidey comments and trying to wreck their relationship, and he basically thought, if I can get rid of Rosie, I can be with Fiz.
And this is really the beginning of John's inane, blundering,
the most inept criminal in.
Yeah.
There wasn't the only criminal I can think of who's more stupid than John Stape is that guy that robbed a bank and got them to deposit it into his account. That is a true story. So John decides to kidnap Rosie and go and feed her every day. But unfortunately,
she escapes.
Well, no, Rosie is discovered by Fiz.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because Fiz was suspicious, I think, of him going off all this time to feed the cat. She goes to feed
the cat.
To this house, and then, discovers Rosie there. And then, that's still not enough, though, to put her off with John.
Well, he gets chucked in prison for 2 years, and she eventually reconciles again with him. And then when she visits him one day, he proposes, and she says, all right, then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on then, as long as you're sorry and you're not going to do anything stupid again.
Don't do anything silly again. And he goes, okay.
Yeah, but then she goes and does something stupid, and doesn't she chain herself to a prison gate because they wouldn't let them get married?
Well, she was late to the wedding because Chesney finds out that that's what she's going to do. So she ends up getting there late, and they say, no, sorry, you missed your chance. So she does a little protest.
Yeah.
And then they let it take place.
Yeah.
So nobody really likes this idea. I don't know why. Everyone seems down on the idea that Fiz is going to marry the guy that kidnapped Rosie Webster. Doesn't Sally vandalise their house or something?
Oh yeah, that sounds like
so she also tries to start a petition to get them to move, but I think everybody is sick of Sally's meddling and they just let them live and let live, basically. And so
John's got his job at the cafe, so Roy's kind of
done Fiz a solid.
Yeah.
By getting him a job.
But John is longing just to be a teacher.
You know how that feels, don't you?
Oh,
because as we're sitting here, you wish you were in the classroom.
I know.
Does it feel like
it's the weekend? I'm not going to be able to go to the school for 2 days. How am I going to cope?
You've got a whole day of marking and planning ahead of you tomorrow.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah. So he decides to get around this dilemma of what to do when you're a disgraced teacher and you're not allowed to go within 10 foot of pupils anymore. He steals somebody's identity.
Yeah.
Colin Fishwick, he's gone off to Canada.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So he basically becomes a renegade teacher.
Yeah, undercover teacher, it's hilarious.
And that's when Julie's current squeeze comes
Brian.
into the picture.
Yeah.
He kind of starts investigating and gets himself involved in a little bit in that storyline. But that's not important because this is Fiz's character profile.
Yeah.
So Fiz
then discovers that she's pregnant, doesn't she?
She finds out about his teaching, and then they kind of look like they're going to break up. But like you say, she discovers that she's pregnant, and they get back together, and everything's going to be fine.
Until what fateful day on
2010
in December, the tram crash.
That's right. John is busy murdering Charlotte Hoyle.
That was a good scene.
And Fiz is out looking for him and gets caught in the rubble as the tram crashes.
Yeah, so she has a little baby Hope in the factory.
3 months early.
Yeah.
And so that's unfortunate for everyone.
Yeah.
And in 2011, John confesses to Fiz that he'd murdered Joy Fishwick.
Yeah, and that was an accident as well, because doesn't he go round there and then she realises that he's not Colin.
She has a heart attack.
He realises what he's done. He tries to quiet her down by putting his hand over her mouth, and then she ends up having a heart attack.
I thought there was something to do with there were some pills that he didn't give her.
I think that was
She kind of reaches for some pills, and he's like, "Oh, maybe I just shouldn't get them for her." So anyway, so he goes, "Oh look, I killed Joy Fishwick," and she's like, "Shut up, John, you balmy idiot." And he basically becomes like Lady Macbeth and spirals into a guilty nervous breakdown and ends up going into hospital. And Fiz is left at home, and then Joy's solicitor comes and says, "Excuse me, are you Mrs. Fishwick? I've got lots of money here." And she goes,
"Yes,
this is she." So she gets all the Fishwick money, but she decides
she does it for the baby, though, doesn't she? Because Fiz is good heart.
No. To start with, she's like, "No, I won't spend it, Chesney. You're right. This is wrong. I won't spend it." But poor Hope needs a pram. So she does it for the kid, and Chesney gets really annoyed because she's always buying things for the baby. But now I think he'd understand because he's got his own bills.
Yeah, he's got his little Joseph.
Yeah. So when John comes back from the hospital and finds out that Fiz has been taking this money, basically, he freaks out and he does a runner.
Yeah, and he falls off the hospital roof. That was and he survives.
Yeah.
It was just the next in the line of improbable events in the John Stape storyline.
But you see, the thing about teachers is that you guys know everything, so he knew to tuck and roll when he landed.
We are resilient,
and he didn't break his knees.
That's part of our core PE training there.
Oh, instead of coming out the window, jump!
That's true. When the inspectors are on their way, we have to get out of the building as fast as we can.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, so he not only does he survive the fall from the building, but he manages to do a runner, leaving Fiz holding the baby, literally.
So they come to Fiz's house and say, "We saw John on the ferry. Wait a minute, you fit the description of this woman who's been stealing all the inheritance."
Yeah, you're in on it, basically.
They think that she was in on it and arrest her for Colin's murder.
Yeah. So she goes to prison, and there's a load of stuff in the prison where she's not really fitting in, because really she's not the kind of prison. She's not that kind of person, really,
not
is
really.
she? She's all a bit innocent to what goes on there. And there's the whole drug stealing storyline in the prison where she knows what's going on. Yeah, she's accused of grassing on someone. She gets beaten up,
and she does know to have Hope with her. And
yeah, because I think Chesney and Katie were looking after Hope at that point, weren't they? Or was it Roy and Haley? I can't remember.
But there was an option for her to have her in the mother and baby unit.
Yeah.
And it's always mother and baby unit.
But in the end, she was found not guilty of Joy's murder, but she was guilty of Colin's, apparently. But just in the nick of time, John comes back. He's kidnapped Rosie Webster, gets in a car crash, and then he dies. But before that, he confesses that
what an honourable chap.
Everything that happened.
Yeah.
And then that was basically up until the.
Well, for a bit after that, everyone was a bit off with her, weren't they?
Yeah.
Everyone was being horrible to her, and it's only recently that she's become back in the sort of bosom of the street, basically.
Yeah, and
her current storyline is Tyrone. Yeah. Getting in between Tyrone and Kirsty.
Yeah, I really like Fiz. She's obviously mostly there for the comedy, but she's proven throughout the John Stape storyline and this one that she can do the drama as well. But because she's very much the kind of the next door type, she's believable, and it's not like I don't know, Michelle, who's just, oh, I'm here to be beautiful, and I'm a bit boring, really.
They give her a personality because they're scared that she doesn't have the looks to get by on, but she's actually really pretty.
I know she's got
lovely hair. I love her
she's got fantastic hair. She's so warm and kind and caring.
She's got a lot of charisma, I think.
Yeah, and I really hope that she does get back with Tyrone.
No, I don't want them to get back. It's romantic. There's been no indication of that at all, which I've actually found quite refreshing.
Yeah, that's true. And we had the discussion a few weeks ago about whether the two of them could live together platonically.
And we said that was a bloody brilliant idea.
Yeah.
So there you go. Let's make that happen.
Yeah, but good old Fiz. She's sort of dependable. She's
dependable, reliable, good old Fiz.
Yeah.
And
you didn't realise until earlier on this week that her name only had one Z in it.
That's what I was just about to say. I've been writing it Fizz all the time.
Until you saw on the text message.
And I was like, oh, it's actually just one.
Yeah.
That makes it easier to write.
You did know that that's not her real name as well, and her name is Fiona.
I did wonder what the heck is Fiz short for.
I think she's named after her fizzy hair. There we go. There's Fiz. One of my favourites, I think.
Yeah. It's time for the news.
Hello everyone, welcome to our character profile revisit of Fiz Stape.
Fiz Stape.
Fiz Stape.
She is a revisit. We've done her before, quite a while ago. Every so often, long-time podcast listeners will know that we go back to the well of a character that we profiled long ago and see what they've been up to since, and that's what we're going to be doing with dear old Fiona. Did you know that was her real name? Of course you did.
I do now.
Fiona Stape. The reason we chose this week, not only because Fiz is has been in the show quite a lot recently, but this week marks the 10th anniversary of when we first profiled her back on the podcast. So we had Fiz as one of our very early character profiles back in episode 16 of the show, which we released on the 24th of November 2012. And she's been a busy little girl since, hasn't she? So
don't infantilise her, Michael. She's a grown woman.
Some might say that she does it herself with her voice. I wouldn't say that.
What? She doesn't.
I don't think so either. But I always say that people say that she has baby voice.
That's nonsense.
I don't think so.
That's absolute nonsense. And also, I say she's not a little girl because she's in a murder book.
She is in a. Does that stop you from being a little girl?
I think that you automatically become. It's one of the rites of passages that we don't tell men about. But you know, when we say women have to have first blood to become a true woman.
Yeah.
We're talking about murder.
Oh, I see.
Not periods. But you guys wouldn't know that.
Also, she is not a little girl because she is pretty much our age, isn't she? And we are definitely past it at this stage.
Take everything back I just said. She is in the first blush of youth. She is a mere babe in the woods.
I think she's supposed to be 1984 she was born in, so slightly younger than us. So back when we profiled her in 2012, she'd been in about 1,450 episodes, and now she's got 2,350. It was 50 something under her belt.
So almost 1,000 more episodes.
Depends if you count whether the episodes have appeared on the hub yet, because I don't know when I'm organising. I'm putting this up.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, she's been
another
an awful lot, and I did mention this in the last podcast we recorded, but she's now cracked the top 20 of most featured characters on Coronation Street. She's actually currently the 17th most featured character, but she's basically neck and neck with Sarah. I think there's literally nothing in it, like one or two episodes in it, and she's also not too far behind catching up with Tyrone either. So I definitely think that should they remain in the show, which I think they absolutely will. I don't see either of them going anywhere anytime soon. They'll definitely get into that top 10 within 15, 20 years or so. But we re-listened to our first profile of Fiz, didn't we? Back in the car the other day, and as was often the case with our early character profiles, because we had plenty of other stuff to fit in the show back then and only a certain amount of web space, it was a rather brief affair, but as well as just going back over what Fiz had been up to in her first 10 odd years on Coronation Street, which basically ended up being a couple of bits and then an awful lot of John Stape stuff.
John Stape.
I did say back then that Fiz was one of my favourites. I also
stand by that.
Yes, I do. I absolutely do stand by that. I mean, if you were to say to me, Michael, who's your favourite characters in Coronation Street, Fiz would certainly not be one of the first I'd come up with. But all throughout the time that, you know, definitely since we've been doing the podcast, and I'd say a while before that as well, I have got a fairly unshakable love of Fiona Stape. And she's certainly changed as a character a lot since the early days, hasn't she? I mean,
definitely. So many of them have, though, haven't they?
So many of them have. Some more than others, and I think if you take a look back at early Fiz, which I mean ITV3 watchers are currently able to do, she's very, very much a different character back then, isn't she? She was a lot more common, a lot rougher, a lot more horny, I suppose.
Oh my goodness.
Bit of a naughty girl, and always trying to seduce Tyrone and get him into trouble. And now she is definitely, to me, she's just a kind of standard, common but in a good way, sort of normal member of society, which you certainly can't say of all Coronation Street characters. She's the sort of person that we would probably get on with in real life, isn't she? I'd feel safe around her.
I think she's the sort of person that you would quite want to have as your neighbour.
Yeah, I think so. Despite all the drama,
you'd be like, she's nice.
She is. She's just a nice girl, and she's not one of these kind of glamour pussies, or didn't have the makeover like Maria did. She's not there just to be like the sex appeal on the street or anything. She's just fairly kind of normal. I think we said she was a next door type on the original.
Not like a television or film next door type, which is, I'm gonna go and wash my car wearing my pants.
No, just actually like a real life.
Like
you could imagine that
lives next door.
Yeah, which is really what I think Coronation Street should be about. Like casting a glance on the real life folk of the North. She comes across as being a very, very genuine character to me. So yes, she was one of my favourites back then, and I'm going to say yes, she is now. I don't think there's much that could happen that could make me waver in my love of Fiz, and certainly that's different to other characters over the year I've certainly fallen out of love with, and others I've grown to appreciate more. And one of the things that stood out to me in that original character profile is how we described Kirk as being a comedy legend.
Oh my god, I wanted to sink into the floor when we heard that.
Not so much these days. It just goes to show
you how quickly your fortunes can turn if you're a Coronation Street character.
Yeah, and Kirk isn't necessarily one that I would immediately spring to mind as being what a massive fall from grace he's had, but he's certainly not at the moment a character that I adore. Whenever he's kind of wheeled out to say in inverted commas a comedy line, I usually give a little groan before he even opens his mouth. But back then clearly he was still at the top of his game, and I suppose reflecting on it, he did used to be pretty entertaining.
He was so funny. I'm sorry, but he was a comedy legend. And now he's just a shadow.
They've just made him too stupid. And certainly, as we go through what Fiz did next in today's podcast, we'll find a few questionable decisions that Fiz has made over the years. But she's certainly not been, she's not been lobotomized like some other characters have been over the years, like Kirk, and we'll name no names about any others, but I'm sure you can guess who I might be referring to. But it's a really interesting one to listen to, and if you're listening to this on YouTube currently, hopefully I've just put the original version up before it.
Yes, and if you're
sorry
curious
about the sound quality
about listening to it, you can go to our YouTube channel, or you can go to conversationstreet.podbean.com and find the episode.
You can even do it on the Podbean app or anything. Loads of different ways.
Yeah.
So when we were going back through seeing original Fiz, because I don't think that you'd been watching it when she first arrived on the show, when she came in and was fostered by Roy. So that was like a first time for you, wasn't it? Were you a little surprised about how different she was to now?
In a weird way, she was a bit like a less criminally minded Gemma when she first came in.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
They love to make these, bring these girls in and rough them up a lot and make them wear completely inappropriate clothes for their body types, and kind of parade them around as sort of, I don't know, very unattractive, loud-mouthed chavs, basically.
Yeah, she really was. She could have been, in the hands of certain producer, gone down exactly the same path as Gemma had. But
flip that round. That to me says there's hope for Gemma yet. Don't write her off. I would not like to write anybody off really on Coronation Street because so many different things can happen.
I'd like to be able to see her story and fast forward really, because where we are, I think we're in 2001 on ITV3 at the moment. She's clearly old Fiz back then. Whenabouts did the switch happen? Because it is so stark, the difference between them, I would say. What was the story that turned her around? But I would say that when we last profiled her in 2012, she was certainly the grown-up, mature mum kind of Fiz that she is now. Maybe it was becoming a mum that turned her that way. I guess we'll never know. But I certainly can't see her, jacking cars or doing topless protests on the roof of Underworld or anything like that now.
No.
So as I was saying, when we profiled her last, we were just in the middle of the Tyrone and Kirsty abuse storyline where he wasn't married to her then, was he? I don't think he ever did. No, they didn't get married.
Yes. No.
They had a wedding, but we hadn't reached that part yet. Tyrone was...
Who had a wedding?
Tyrone and Kirsty had a wedding.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. But we hadn't reached that part yet. The tail end of 2012, Tyrone and her were still going out.
Who?
Ruby had
Tyrone
been
and
booked.
her?
Kirsty.
Okay.
Ruby had just been born.
Ruby was born to Kirsty and Tyrone.
Yes.
And they were living together.
Yeah, they were living together at
as
number 9. Yeah, it's just boyfriend and girlfriend, or fiancé and
Happy
fiancée.
family.
Exactly. But Fiz was trying to meddle a little bit because she'd seen what Kirsty was actually like. Kirsty was massively abusive. She would beat Tyrone up or throw things at him or whatever. And but in public, she would just be like the perfect girlfriend, really. And Tyrone, either through a case of male pride or fear or whatever,
it's
didn't
because of the
want to
stigma
speak up.
attached to being a male victim of domestic abuse, which is sort of what you were trying to say, wasn't it?
I was trying to say that. Thank you for putting it much more eloquently. Kirsty, there was one scene that was quite memorable towards the end of that year where Fiz was working on the factory sewing machines and Kirsty... and it gets caught up or something. So somebody switches off the machine at the mains while Fiz can try and sort of fix it back together again. And then Kirsty turns the machine on at the wall while Fiz's finger is underneath, and she gets a needle through the finger.
I remember that.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Yeah, definitely a cringy moment there. And then when Kirsty, I think, takes her to hospital, she pretty much says to Fiz, That's what you get. Keep your nose out of my business.
Stay away from my man.
Yeah, so Fiz is kind of begging Tyrone to leave Kirsty for his and Ruby's sake, but yeah, nobody believes just how nasty Kirsty is. So do you want to just finish off 2012 for us, Gemma?
2012, best year of that ever was. As we all know, everything's declined from then on. The minds were right. 2012, Fiz and Tyrone get closer, and then Kirsty leaves him alone when he's having his 30th birthday party, and because she wants to sort out a secret surprise party. But then Fiz sneaks round and they have a little kiss.
So that means that Tyrone's 40th birthday party is just around the corner then, doesn't it? I don't know the exact date of this, but this it must be somewhere between now and the end of 2022.
Well,
so,
it's either November or December.
Is that
his birthday?
Yeah. So he's gonna turn 40. So I wonder whether what's happening at the moment with Hope going off the rails and the state book and everything, is that going to tie into Ty's 40th birthday celebrations?
Or
is he going to be like Toya and it just kind of gets completely missed?
Yeah. Tina spots them kissing in the Ginnell later that month, and then the affair continues throughout December. But then on New Year's Eve, Fiz collapses, and I don't know where she's living at this time, but there's a faulty boiler, and it's pumping out carbon monoxide, and Tyrone valiantly rescues her.
I think that she must have been at number 5 at that time. So Chesney and Gemma's house now. That's what I'm saying. I can't remember why there was a faulty boiler, but yeah, we had the old carbon monoxide poisoning. Another interesting thing about our previous character discussion about Fiz is that we were both quite adamant that we didn't want to see any romance developing between the two of them, didn't we? And I don't know, I kind of just said, there's not been any hints of that. I wonder whether they can just kind of live platonically or whatever. But it feels to me very, very natural that they did end up together. And again, watching the old 2001 episodes at the moment, and they've had an awful lot of history, but that then continues on into 2012. They're getting closer and closer. Into 2013, they're getting closer and closer, and then this wedding happens sort of mid-January 2013. Kirsty finds out about their affair that she's having. There was something, like Tyrone had a secret phone, and didn't he like take photos of the bruises? I'm trying to remember, and then or Fiz did, and I don't know exactly what happened. I can't remember. I probably should have looked into this, but I remember at the time thinking that Tyrone was a bit of an idiot for not deleting the evidence off of his phone, which Kirsty then finds. So she somehow finds out that Tyrone and Fiz are at it together, but she carries on with the wedding plans. Plotting to out him during the service, and in true Michelle Connor fashion, sort of 10 years earlier pretty much, she shocks the congregation by reading out all the secret texts that Tyrone and Fiz have been having, because she's got it. So that was just like Michelle did to Robert.
It's a classic move.
Yeah.
I'm really mad because we don't get invited to many weddings, do we? I mean,
no.
We've been to like 3 probably in our whole lives. But I assume that this happens quite regularly.
I can only assume so, because we've got 2 examples of it right now.
Yeah.
They go back home, and this is where Kirsty falls down the stairs, but then she blames Tyrone. So they don't get married? No, I don't think they get married, but they go back to number... were they in 13? No, they must have been 9.
Well, obviously, Kirsty's a bit annoyed.
Yes, so they end up having a bit of a tussle at the top of the stairs. Kirsty falls down, blames Tyrone for pushing her. Everybody believes Kirsty, of course. Tyrone's kind of blaming Fiz for everything going wrong, but eventually he's
terrified because he's got Ruby now to think about, and he doesn't want her to take Ruby away from him and the family.
Yeah, so they do a classic soap flit and decide, Tyrone and Fiz, they decide to go to, with Ruby and Hope, they decide to go to Wales and sail to Ireland. So that this is the how far they were going to go to escape Kirsty, but Fiz ends up bottling it and realises, like, I think we're doing a bit of child kidnapping here, hands themselves in, but and so back they go to Weatherfield. And
they
then
get in trouble.
They do, yeah. Tyrone ends up going on to court for it, and during his trial...
What was he going to court for?
I think it was the pushing Kirsty down the stairs thing, but I seem to remember that she'd absconded for a little bit, so... But she eventually comes into the court and confesses, doesn't she?
Yeah, that was quite...
And I think we also then get to see him visiting her in prison to get a bit of closure to it. But yeah, Kirsty has ended up just admitting to everything. I think her mum got involved, if I remember rightly. And but anyway, that was the end of Kirsty. That was the last that we saw of her on the show. Not dead yet. Not dead yet. Don't jump the gate. She is dead now.
Yeah.
But she wasn't then. She's just gone to prison.
I'm just telling everybody it's foreshadowing.
Spoiler-in.
It's called foreshadowing, Michael. I'm whetting everyone's appetite for like, oh, how? What happened?
I still don't even know what happened. I think you've literally given the end away. Anyway, anyway, Tyrone and Fiz are now free to continue their passionate affair. And basically, they just said, let's make a go of this relationship. And they live happily ever after, at least throughout the next couple of years. And after that massive story of 2012, 2013, we don't see a whole lot of Fiz and Tyrone. They definitely become more background characters for a good while. But they got up to a few bits and pieces in the following years, didn't they?
2014, this is when Maria goes a bit nuts and she starts getting obsessed with Tyrone again. Because they originally were... Yeah,
Tyrone and Maria.
When they were very young.
Classic couple.
They were the hot young couple on the street, and he proposed to her in Blackpool Tower, etc, etc, and they both seem to have moved on with their lives until Maria gets obsessed with Tyrone after he defends her and punches Todd after she had an affair with Marcus. And Marcus and Todd were dating.
Yeah, Maria was going out with Marcus.
Marcus always said, I'm a gay man who fell in love with a woman. And so he and Maria were together, but I think
then Todd seduced him.
Okay, so it all got a bit messy, and then Tyrone defended her, and then she was like, this is great. Then also, he goes to see Kirsty. She gets released from prison, and she sends Maria sends Tyrone fake text messages pretending to be from Kirsty, and Tyrone and Phiz are not going to stand for this. They call the police on her, but Kirk gets them to drop the charges.
Kirk, brother of Maria.
Yes.
Yeah, so
because Kirsty was not involved in any of this.
No. So that was a bit of a weird episode for Maria.
Maria's has got form. She's doing very, very weird, unstable things. Considering
that she's often seen as being a little bit of a bland, dull character, and she goes for a long time without doing much. She's like, no, look at me, I'm crazy, I'm a stalker.
She's got the power of lunacy. And also, I think Griff should be worried, because I wouldn't want to make an enemy of Maria.
Well, I think it's quite hypocritical, to be honest, that Maria's complaining about being stalked and having text messages sent to her and being trolled online when she's just as bad as it herself, we saw 10 years ago.
Karma.
Yeah.
And in November, Scylla comes to stay for a while.
Biz's mum.
And this was when they ruined Scylla's character, because she's very
she had been massively brash and obnoxious and loud and vile and in your face and very unrealistically comedically nasty. OTT.
I can't remember. I can't think of another word other than cowed. But she's been diminished by this diagnosis she's got of osteoporosis. So she's sort of had a bit of a come to Jesus moment, hasn't she? And she's trying to regain her children's trust, and she just turns boring. Fiz goes off to Wolverhampton with her to look after her, and this was when Jenny McAlpine was having her first maternity leave to have beautiful baby son Albert.
Yes, and that's going to be a running theme throughout this character profile of Fiz disappearing off for a little bit so she can go and do various side projects, if you can call a child being a side project.
I don't know how that came out. Most people think of him that way, but anyway, tell me what happened in 2015.
Well, she comes back from Wolverhampton and everything's all hunky-dory until in September Fiz and Tyrone are told that Hope has developed a childhood cancer called neuroblastoma. So this was a real miserable kind of storyline for them in the autumn of 2015. Obviously both devastated by this news. Hope back then was played by a different actress who was a real kind of cutie sweetie pie, wasn't she? She was absolutely adorable. So this poor little thing having this terrible disease was a really tragic story. Fiz thinks that Tyrone, though, maybe isn't feeling it as much because he's not Hope's biological father. And this is a bit of a theme that runs all the way through, that the Corrie writers like to drag out every now and again, saying, well, she's not my daughter, she's your daughter.
Well, it's kind of realistic, but it's also a bit sad.
It is a bit sad. And, you know, I absolutely believe that both Fiz and Tyrone consider the girls their girls, because... You know, Hope was born, within months of Hope being born, within months of Ruby being born, Fiz and Tyrone were an item, weren't they?
Yeah.
And even Hope, there was, she was 2 when they got together. So I even though they're not, blood related, I think that they do consider them. So when they like to drag out the line of, oh, well, she's not my daughter, I think, I don't know whether you'd really say that, or whether they're just putting it in the strips for drama.
It's interesting, though, that Tyrone and Fiz seem to be the main family that explores this idea of having a blended family, and the ramifications and the consequences of your feelings for children if they're not your blood children, because there are so many families on Coronation Street that are kind of here's a pun, cobbled together. And nobody really seems to have as many hang-ups as Tyrone and Fiz do, because this comes up quite a lot. It's weird, because I would have thought that of all the people, Fiz and Tyrone would have been...
Well, they are the couple with, the longest, most stable relationship, pretty much, out of everybody on the whole show so far.
But nobody else really seems... I don't know, am I missing some obvious ones? But, think of Leanne and Simon. Not even related.
No.
And it doesn't really...
Doesn't come up. So sometimes Simon will drop it in when he's feeling particularly spiteful. But yeah...
But it doesn't come up from Leanne. Leanne's never had a problem with the fact that he's not her biological child. It's been him. But I guess the thing about Hope and Ruby is that they're not old enough. But then maybe that's what we're exploring at the moment.
Yeah. And there's some couples that don't seem to be together long enough for be able for that to come along.
Well,
and who knows what Adam thinks about Harry,
that's what I was
his
just
new
thinking.
Stepson. Like, have they ever had a scene together?
Does he even know that he lives with a child?
Yeah, I wonder.
I'm not sure. He probably wonders what these tiny socks are. He probably does the laundry and he's like, why do my socks keep shrinking? And why have they got dinosaurs on them? I don't remember buying these at all.
Yeah, and you've also got, like, Gary has got Liam living with him. I mean, what's Jake doing? Is he still living with Izzy? I don't know. I don't think really Maria feels any kind of maternal bond with him. But again, it's because we don't see them together. And that is one thing that the Stape-Dobbs blended family have got going for them. Quite often you do see them together sitting round the breakfast table or sitting on the sofas, and Hope and Ruby are there.
Are they like the main young kid family on Coronation Street?
Yeah, because if you they're the ones that are in it the most, because all of the other kids, you know, talking about the ones 10-year-old or less around about, that they go through huge stints of never seeing them, and they're fairly, you know, empty vessels in terms of personality. But yeah, I think maybe it is because we've seen so much of them as a foursome. That's why they feel that the writers can say, oh, let's add a bit of spice to it by having this, you're not really my son. And I don't know, maybe. So anyway, poor old Hope. Sorry, she's not dead yet. She's not dead. She's got neuroblastoma, but it is not looking good for her as the end of 2015 draws near. Tyrone wants to give her some lovely experiences while he still can, because he doesn't know whether she's going to make it through this. So he's like, let's take her to Lapland. And Fiz is like, no, we can't afford it. We're one of the poor families on the street. You can't do that. So Tyrone is like, okay, fine, I'll cancel the trip. But he keeps putting it off. So he's got this Lapland trip booked, and he says, I'll cancel it. Fiz is getting madder and madder because he doesn't. But in the end, it all kind of gets resolved by the classic 2015 #best Christmas ever on Coronation Street, where they decide to bring Lapland to the cobbles, and they have their reindeer, don't they? They have their snow machines, their fir trees and everything, and basically the whole street stops just to celebrate Christmas for the sake of this poorly kid.
Let's have a vignette.
Yeah.
Let's have Hayley look out the window.
And was that the one?
I'm pretty sure that was the year that Hayley was also ill, wasn't it?
I don't know now. See, in my head, Hayley was dead
maybe
by
I'm
then,
wrong.
but maybe it was then.
I just think I remember her getting mad, but maybe
I don't know. But
well,
anyway,
Coronation Street in my head was a lot more dramatic then.
It was very lovely, but I think there was certainly some criticism levelled at the show that Christmas for being a little bit too twee and boring.
Oh no!
But then some people look back on it and say, well, at least it was nice and Christmassy, and there weren't murders and subterfuge and all that going on left, right, and centre. Anyway, it was lovely, and to top it all off, Tyrone and Fiz get engaged. He proposes to her. So we're now how many years on from this? 7, 8 years on from this, and still not got no ring on that finger. Well, apart from an engagement ring. And then that kind of got forgotten about for quite a long time, but it will rear its head again in 2021 at least. But Gemma, before we get to that, I'll pass 2016 to you.
So in 2016, you can't just have a Lapland on the cobbles and not expect to pay for it.
No, they do come with massive bills generally.
Coronation Street production team pulled a fast one on Fiz and Tyrone, and they had to pick up the bill for the whole Christmas extravaganza, including the snow machine and all the extras. So Fiz is livid because it turns out that he's got a payday loan, and somehow the bill is racked up to 10 grand.
Yep.
So what was this? Just the payday loan for Lapland? It doesn't matter, but that's a lot of money.
Fiz and Tyrone are poor. That's the headline for pretty much all of 2016 and 2017 as well, I think.
I think it's I don't think that has changed. Has it?
I mean, I don't think they're rolling in it necessarily, although Hope's doing her best with those books at the moment.
Well, Hope's turning £15 books into £5 books, so she's not helping, is she? So, the 10 grand in the red, and Good news is that Hope's cancer is in remission.
That's okay,
but
then.
on the other hand, cancer's free in this country, so that doesn't help. Obviously, I know it's not free. You have to pay for the parking at the hospital. And in 5 years' time, if nothing else happens, they'll be able to say that she's completely cured.
I don't know whether they actually ever got that message.
That would have been 2021.
Yeah. Did that happen last year? Maybe.
Maybe that's what's wrong with her. I don't know. Neuroblastoma was a brain issue, so I'm not going to say anymore. The couple continue to struggle with having no money, and so they decide, I know what we can do. We'll just fill the yard with junk. Their side project is to collect scrap metal.
Was that there one time when we went on a trip to Coronation
I'm pretty
Street
sure.
Studios and we went round the back and there was a load of
rubbish.
junk there. It felt, I think I remember that feeling like a bit of a dull story, and they didn't do much. They just collected a bit of
The
metal.
thing
There wasn't
is,
much excitement in that
I
one.
have to say, a lot of these mini side stories would be actually kind of quite interesting if they actually gave them any time. I mean, for goodness sake, there's television shows that have been running for like 20 years on television, literally about people collecting scrap junk and selling it.
Yeah.
So why couldn't Coronation Street?
When I think back on it, I think it's like, they give it a week where they're collecting a bit and then they forget about it, and then in months' time later they go, oh, what's all that scrap still doing?
Just fell over a cog.
Yeah.
Anyway, this was also the year that Fiz and Tyrone drive into Gail's annex in their big van.
Oh yeah, that was a bit of an adventure for them.
And uncover Callum's body. They also taken Freddie as a lodger for a year.
Freddie Smith.
That's Freddie, the guy who used to work at the garage.
Yes,
I
motorbiking
quite liked
Freddie.
him, but he's also dead.
He's just gone as well.
Fiz and Tyrone support Kathy and Roy as they're prepared to marry. This is after. This must have been. So was Hayley around? No, it can't have been. I don't know. Kathy and Roy.
They were. He wasn't moving on from
quick.
Hayley. No. So I mean, no, it couldn't have been.
No, I think I've just
think you're
muddled
out by
some. I like my head canon of Coronation Street with everything mixed up.
It's alright. We're
and
not
pushed
expected
together.
to have a complete chronological order of everything that happened to every character for the last 60 years.
Coronation Street is like in my
Maybe a few
mind.
years out.
It's like a bread and butter pudding. I just take all the ingredients and I smash them up together, and it all comes out as a goo. That's still nice.
What are the currents?
Murders. The currents are murders.
The currents are horrible.
Slap that on a t-shirt. Murder's horrible, Michael.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's entertaining to watch.
Is it current?
This is quite nice because when Fiz came into the show, she was Roy and Hayley's foster daughter, wasn't she? And she was a right nightmare for them at first, and she was accusing Roy of being inappropriate around her, shall we say?
Diddlin'.
And once they went years not really having a whole lot to do with each other, so it was nice that they were able to come together for this story. And they don't have anything to do with each other now, do they? But it's lovely when the show remembers, oh yeah, these characters have got a bit of history, let's do something with it. Yes,
and also Fiz was there for Roy and Hayley's wedding, obviously. Yeah. So it's kind of like her stamp of approval for Roy's. Moving on. And Fiz also had to help Kathy come to terms with the fact that her ex, Alan, was having an affair behind her back and had been revealed as her sister Nessa's. Hang on a minute.
Kathy's sister Nessa
had an affair with Kathy's husband Alan, and they had a child together who's called Alex. Is Alex. And she didn't know until that moment. No.
So Fiz helps her out with that.
Fiz is like, oh, well.
Yeah, blended families are cool.
Did you think you were going to get away with just being a hoarder? Anyway, the wedding doesn't go ahead because Tyrone helps Roy see that he would be making the wrong decision. Good job, Tyrone.
So up next we've got
ruining marriages and not even your own
2017, and Fiz is trying to play a bit of a peacemaker when Sinead and Chesney's relationship is falling apart. So Fiz and Chesney don't have loads to do with each other these days, do they? I wouldn't say they have stories together, but sometimes Chesney will handily bring one of the girls home from school, and that's about it. But anyway, at this point, Sinead has started showing a bit of an interest in Daniel, so Fiz is there as a supportive sister for Chesney, which is nice. And she gets like a proper bee in her bonnet about Sinead. She's outraged when it becomes public knowledge that Daniel and Sinead have slept together, and supports Ches through the breakup, and basically gives evils to Sinead for a good few months. there was also a really weird mini story for Fiz, and I don't even know whether it lasted longer than an episode or two, but do you remember when she realised that she was a brilliant masseuse? And she gave Fiz, she became... She said, "Oh, Tyrone, do you want a massage?" And then it turned out that she was brilliant at massages. It said she had magic fingers or something. We called the storyline title "Fiz Fingers." And literally nothing happened from that. It felt like they had an idea and they just said, "No, let's change our mind about that."
Oh my goodness,
one.
that could have been.
If you're on the street and you want a massage, Fiz is the one to go to.
Honestly, that could have come up with so many different story ideas. Like, she could have had weird clients. Somebody could have got handsy with her.
Yeah.
You know, there could have been so many. It would have been a bit like when they have a dating storyline, like blind date storylines, where you have to kind of like be in a small space with somebody who turned out to be a bit strange.
Yeah. Nothing happens. Similar with this friend of Fiz's that turned up midway through this year, Kim. Do you remember that? So Tyrone.
That was a man, right?
That was a man. I think there was a bit of a or is it a man or a woman? I think Fiz says she's going to have a friend Kim round. Tyrone's not bothered, but then when it turns out that Kim's actually a man, he gets madly jealous of it.
That's right, because you might think that Kim is short for Kimberly, but in this case it was short for Kimbert.
Is that right?
No.
I didn't think it was. Anyway, he's this rich antiques dealer. He turns out to be gay anyway, doesn't he? I think Sean has a bit of a thing with him
Maria,
at one point.
There's literally there's no barrier.
But yeah, I didn't really enjoy the Kim character, but he wasn't in it much. But every now and then they brought him back in and I'm like, oh no, not him again. But I was always happy that he didn't last for very long.
It was like they were going, remember that storyline about the junk? Because that was why he came into it, wasn't it? Because they were trying to offload all this crap.
Yeah, I think so.
And Tyrone's just been hoarding it. And the reason that Fiz got this guy to come along was because she was like, we need to sell some of this stuff. My friend's an antiques dealer.
But it also kind of leads into her current position as antiques dealer at Gary's furniture shop. I think there must have been at the time, but it feels like it was a nice coincidence that it all happened and it led to it eventually.
Imagine if Kimber is secretly the financier of Gary's crappy little backstreet junk shop because he keeps bailing them out by coming up and buying all their rattan furniture and brass monkeys. So
Chesney gets stabbed in the chest that summer just to add a bit of excitement to the character.
It's still not exciting.
No, Sinead, who by this point I think has split up with Ches, turns up at the hospital. Fiz is not happy at all to see her. And then she has a storyline which lasts for a little bit towards the end of the year where factory gets closed down thanks to a bit of de-roofery by... Who was it that even took the roof off? Was it Adam? I think the roof off the factory. I think he was partly involved. Adam and Eva did it, didn't they? Yeah. So the factory girls are all out of a job towards the end of 2017. So Fiz and that lot decide to start up a Kickstarter campaign and make some headscarves for kids with cancer. So it was kind of calling back to Hope's cancer.
Did it go viral?
I don't think it did go viral, unlike the usual online endeavours by Coronation Street characters. In fact, it was doing pretty poorly. So Beth says, well, maybe we should slap Hope's face on the campaign to try and get a bit more sympathy. Fiz doesn't like the idea, but Beth decides to give it a try anyway. Headstar scarves start selling like hotcakes, and Fiz is like, oh, okay, then let's use my daughter.
Well, you know, back in the day, if you wanted a cover girl for headscarves, you had to use Ina Sharples.
Yeah, exactly. Times have changed since then.
It's Hope Stape.
Yeah. So Fiz gets quite surprised one day when she and Tyrone receive £2,000 in the post. It's an anonymously donated one. I believe it was Billy that did it. But anyway, they don't know what to do with this money because it just gets popped through the door, and they say, well, we could donate it to the fundraiser, and then the factory girls would get some of it, or we could spend it on Hope, and they kind of go towards spending it on Hope. And when Beth finds out about this, she is not happy, has a massive argument with Fiz, and says, well, I'm definitely going to keep it then. If you think that we're greedy anyway, then we might as well be. So they keep the money, they buy a trampoline. Doesn't last so long though, because the end of 2017, by this point, Hope has had a recast. She is now Isabella Flanagan playing her, and this is the beginning of Demon Hope that 5 years on, we're still very much in the thick of. So the story starts when Ruby and Hope are on the trampolines. Ruby pushes her off, and then Fiz ends up siding with Hope. She upsets Tyrone by referring to Ruby as your daughter. Next thing you know, the trampoline's on fire and Fiz is blaming Ruby. And this kept going for quite a long time at the beginning of the story. Everybody thought that it was Ruby who was the demon child. Do you remember? Yeah. And they were saying, oh, well, obviously it's to do with Kirsty. And she's got her evil DNA in her. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And it kind of was, but in the end they decided, no, it's Hope that's got John's evil genes in her, even though I don't think that
in real life the idea that you stigmatise a child based on their parentage, especially when that parent really didn't have much of a hand in raising them, is obviously abhorrent, and we don't agree with it. But in fiction it's actually hilarious and fun.
I don't enjoy it because I think it's so
great.
Silly.
It's very theatrical and very, you know, like archetypal in a way. You know, isn't fiction full of stories about heroic or anti-heroes who are either falling into the legacy of their parentage or trying to fight against it? You know, that's a very kind of base story arc, isn't it?
But I would say it's more comes when
it's
parent
usually when
has
you're of
raised.
Age. Yeah, but it's also not normally about small children, which, you know, it's not fair at all to sort of. And I don't. Can I just say I don't think for 1 minute that Coronation Street is adding to people. You know, it's not. I don't think it's problematic because I don't think people are going to watch Coronation Street and go, yeah, I know, Daughter of a Murderer. She's probably dodgy too. You know, I think it's fine. But your problem with it isn't that you are worried about stigmatising children, is it? It's because you don't like this. What is your problem with it?
Well, no, I just think it's silly that so many people seem to think, oh yes, of course, because her dad is this person. Clearly, she must be, you know, she must be a nutter herself. I don't like it. Anyway,
well, you're a better man.
Fiz makes a better person than Sally Webster as well, because she's certainly
naughty.
She certainly thinks that of Hope as well. Anyway, Fiz has another disappearing act at the end of 2017 because poor Scylla has a fall. She's got osteoporosis, so that's pretty bad. So Fiz has to go down to Wolverhampton to nurse her. What's actually happening at this point is Jenny McAlpine is going into I'm a Celebrity. And I remember finding it quite unusual that she was announced to be on this because I don't know, and we've met Jenny a couple of times, haven't we? And she never came across to me as being somebody who would be so outgoing that that's the kind of thing that she would want to do. But she, you know, that shows what we know. She did a fab job. She made it into the final 5, and fair play to her. And she got a bit of time off Coronation Street for it as well. So it doesn't arrive until quite a way into 2018, does she?
No, and I also, you know, I think lots of different people go on.
Yeah, for different reasons.
Different personality, and you also don't know what they tell them. You know, what do the producers when they're courting them over dinner? You know, what do they say?
Well, I think a lot of the people that go on I'm a Celeb have watched it as well, so they know what they're letting themselves in for.
I know. I'm not saying that anyone goes into it not knowing what's going on.
Experience.
But you know, there are certain people who can certainly twist things and make things sound very convincing, don't they? You know. Anyway, she did a really good. I think she was right to go in because I think she did a great job. Yeah. So 2018, she briefly appears on Skype in January because she's going to stay with Scylla until March.
Remember the days when people used to use Skype as their video calling platform of choice?
Skype.
Poor Skype. You kind of really missed the trick with that whole pandemic thing, didn't you?
How did Skype not get?
Zoom just jumped in there. It was in the right place at the right time. Hello,
how
pandemic.
did that happen? I'm just baffled.
I don't know.
Everyone already had Skype on their computers.
I know.
Right, we're not talking about that. Tyrone promises everyth's been fine with the girls while she's been away, but it was all a lie because Ruby's been playing up, and Fiz, and that's a bit of an issue, I guess.
Yeah. Tyrone is not wanting to admit that Ruby has been up to no good, when actually it's not really been Ruby that's the troublemaker, it's been Hope. Yeah.
Tyrone is training for the upcoming boxing match. Is this a charity match to end racism? Well done, guys. You didn't work, did it?
Clearly not.
Should have punched Griff in the face. It might have worked. So, but he's training all the time, and Fiz starts to get a bit annoyed and nag him, apparently. Then the girls nearly, this is quite funny, the girls go into the factory. This is, everything's abandoned, and because the roof's it's collapsed, and, you know, it's just a...
Yeah, this is after the roof
the roof
collapsed.
Yeah. Well, the roof got taken off, then it got rebuilt, then it collapsed, and now it's just a death trap. So what better place for two young girls to...
Or is this the collapse? I don't know, maybe the collapse was 2019. But
well,
in any case,
enjoy themselves.
The factory was fairly unusable at this point.
They're actually, unbeknownst to Hope and Ruby, they're actually filming Saw 10 there. And they're about to die. There's a spinning saw of death, but luckily they escape.
They get rescued.
They nearly get killed, basically.
Yeah.
Fiz blames Ruby and says, right, me and Hope are moving out because you keep trying to kill my daughter. Then...
Well, she's like, I can't have Hope around her demon sister Ruby any longer. Sorry, for her safety, I'm taking her the heck out of here.
Well, I mean, you know, first a trampoline, now a saw of death. What next? So, Tyrone gets left alone with Ruby. Gemma comes, visits Tyrone, and they end up sleeping together because he's so sad. Warning, warning, warning.
Terrible decision. And Fiz is only away for a few days as well.
No, she comes back and she finds empty condom wrapper.
A what?
An empty condom.
Empty condom wrapper?
How disgusting.
In the bed sheets?
In the bed sheets. That was a good job, it's just the wrapper. She realises what's happened. She goes and chucks kebabs at Gemma in Prima Donna. Then Fiz uncovers a bit more information about who might be behind the evil antics of the children of the Stape household when she finds that Hope has been trying to get Joseph to jump down the stairs.
Yeah, she tells him that he's got like a magic cape or something that'll help him fly down the stairs. So finally, Fiz realises, oh, my daughter's the one that's
she's the
psycho.
evil
That
child.
makes
the thing
sense
is, I'm going to
now.
defend Hope a little bit here because I think I was probably a bit like this when I was a kid. I think all kids are a bit violent, aren't they? Honestly,
I think lots of kids have had more near-death experiences than.
I think we would not like to admit. If you actually look back on your childhood, how many times did you nearly die? Because I'm going to say it's about 25 for me. And how many times did you nearly kill another child?
Yeah, I know.
You know, you can't even count that.
Well, there's hope for Hope to grow up into a perfectly normal human being then when she's an adult.
I think her opportunities for convincing people they've got a magic cape and they can jump down the stairs as she grows into an adult is going to become fewer and fewer.
Yeah, she's not going to have so many people believe her, is she?
So
she also admits that when after this that she was the one behind the factory saw incident and the trampoline fires. It all comes out, but only Fiz knows.
Yes, so Fiz decides to keep this a secret because, gosh, wouldn't it be awkward if she had to admit to Tyrone that she was a liar?
She was wrong all along.
She was wrong. Sorry, yeah. No woman can ever admit that, can we?
No.
So she keeps
like
it under...
I was saying earlier, Fiz definitely made some questionable decisions over the last 10 years. I'm not going to deny that. Still love her, but
correct you there. Dramatic decisions.
Yeah, they certainly liked to play Fiz and Hope versus Tyrone and Ruby more than once.
But when it comes to relationships on Coronation Street, I have to say I like them like I like my whiskey.
What's
on
that?
The rocks.
You don't feel risky.
I sometimes do.
Yeah.
So Ruby is a psycho, Tyrone, but just secretly I'm going to book my kid into therapy.
No, Hope is the psycho, but Tyrone...
No, that's what she's saying to Tyrone.
Oh, yeah,
Ruby's
yeah.
a psycho, but I'm going to secretly book Hope. Ruby's a psycho, I'm going to book Hope into therapy. Don't find out about it.
No. Ruby gets booked into therapy. Tyrone books Ruby into therapy with Fiz going, oh, well, let's just let it carry on because I don't want Tyrone to find out that it's my daughter.
It's free, is it? Is it free? Okay, yeah, I'll have some as well. Truth soon comes out, and Tyrone is livid at Fiz for making him think badly of Ruby. And so Fiz is like, okay, I'll take Hope to a psychiatrist then. Oh, God, you could be like that about it. Then the girls go missing, and Fiz and Tyrone decide to give things another go.
I think
you skipped over quite a lot of plot there.
No, I think they only go missing for a little bit.
Yeah.
Just to get them together. Say, oh, then we're done with this drama now. Let's put them back to status quo again.
Yeah. Hope, Abby starts working at the garage, and then Fiz gets suspicious because I think she's worried about Tyrone and Abby.
Yeah, she thinks that Tyrone's got the hots for Abby. She doesn't like the fact that she's working with a lady.
Honestly, Fiz and Tyrone really should not be together.
If I was Tyrone, I'd say, well, you and Dirk at the factory, eh? I'll let that one fly.
There's a lot of horny men hanging around the Knickers factory, especially these days. Jacob.
Oh, yeah.
Horning over Carl Connor. Anyway, Fiz gets suspicious. She enlists Hope to spy on them. Then that causes ructions between Tyrone and Fiz.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a bit awkward, when Kim comes to stay the night on Fiz's sofa. Sean is living there at that time, and so Fiz asks him to leave so that she and Fiz can Tyrone again.
Tyrone can try again together.
Yeah.
And that's what led to Sean's homeless storyline as well, because once he got kicked out of number 9 there by Fiz, he was like, I don't got anywhere to go now. I think I'll live in a tent in the streets for a few weeks.
I think you should start a YouTube channel about bushcraft. I'd watch it. Fiz and Tyrone eventually reunite when Jackie Dobbs dies. But don't worry, not really your mum.
Not really a mum, no.
He doesn't know that yet, though, does he?
No, he does not.
So, his dad Darren and Tyrone get into an argument at the will reading, and so then it comes out that he and Jackie aren't even actually Tyrone's biological parents, and so Fiz says we should find out who your real mum is. So
I can't remember whether one or both of them were just getting interested in genealogy at that point, so that's the reason why they decide to track down the real parents.
And Roy obviously helps them because he's interested in anything to do with boring stuff.
There's nothing boring about your family tree. It's fascinating, I think.
Well, I think it is fascinating, but Roy can make anything boring, can't he? So he helps them track down Nana Evelyn. Hooray! What a lovely old, beautiful, rosy-cheeked woman.
No.
She turns out no. Fiz is all for them staying with them because she gets evicted, but it turns out that Evelyn is not.
Bit of a harridan, isn't she?
She starts. Honestly, she comes in and she starts critiquing their decor, which is actually correct.
She's really kind of unlikable in her first few months, isn't she?
They didn't know how to write for her at the beginning.
No, they didn't know what sort of character they wanted her to be, and she was being pretty vile towards Fiz and trying to put Tyrone off her. It wasn't like
a comedy old bat.
No,
you know the thing
it
about
was a bit cruel.
She was
spiteful.
a bit like Blanche, but the difference between Blanche and Evelyn is that Blanche, I don't know what the age difference is, but Blanche was not attacking anybody from a position of power. Because she was a little old lady who basically sat in the corner and just bitched about everything. Whereas Evelyn was a force of nature. She was independent and she wasn't, she felt like she was punching down at the beginning of the show. And then she's kind of mellowed out a bit more.
Definitely, yeah. But yeah, she was not Fiz's biggest fan at the
beginning. She hated Fiz. She tried to separate Fiz and Tyrone. She also tried to steal Vera's jewellery as well.
Under the bed.
Then Hope gets expelled after biting a teacher, and she gets referred to the Prue.
I'd completely forgotten about the fact that it was a pupil referral unit, the same as Max is in now. But yeah, this isn't the first time it's been mentioned in Coronation Street. She can't. Apparently, she's so naughty that the local Prue can't even handle her. So it's able to contain Max at the moment, but Hope, no way. So she has to go all the way to Birmingham for the super specialist unit. And this was Jenny McAlpine going off to have a second maternity leave. This is her lovely daughter Hilda, who was born towards the end of 2018, I think. And, so we lose Fiz again.
Fiz and Hope go off to rehabilitate Hope.
Yeah. So that they go off, and Fiz is away from the show then until the end of August. It was like the last week of August, I think, 2019. She gets back to find utter chaos because Tyrone, doofus, hasn't arranged for Hope to go back to Weatherfield, to Bessie Street School for the new school year. So when she walks in,
I don't understand this. Did she only get expelled for a year? Is it a new school?
I think no, it wasn't a new school.
What is this?
If you leave school, I think it's saying that Hope is now cured, supposedly, in Birmingham, and now she's allowed to come back to Weatherfield, but Tyrone needs to reapply for her place, and he hasn't done that. So when Fiz comes back, Tyrone and Evelyn are staging a sit-in protest at the school, and Fiz is like, oh, what's going on here? And she has to sort them all out. So, is Hope cured? Together. No, she is not.
Nope.
She very quickly returns to her old ways by starting a fire in the factory. Fiz is like, right, I'm going to homeschool you. I need to keep an eye on you all the time. She's also, I think, a little bit ashamed of her daughter and the fact that she's behaving this way, and she's so bad that not even this super specialist unit down south could cure her. So she's like, right, let's hide you away from society. I'm going to tutor you. There's also a nice little mystery for Fiz around that time, because she gets a phone call from somebody and says, oh no, I haven't found the right moment to tell Tyrone yet. So we're left kind of dangling with that one for a couple of weeks, thinking, oh, has Fiz had an affair with someone down in Birmingham? That's put to one side for a bit while Fiz carries on with this homeschooling, which she really, really struggles with. I think she had to homeschool Chesney in the past as well, but she can't be doing with teaching Hope stuff. She one day finds Hope with a box of matches, but still she won't tell Tyrone. So there's just she's just terrified and of co-parenting, really, isn't she? And I think she doesn't want Tyrone to realise just how bad this girl is, because I guess maybe she's worried that he's going to say, well, stuff that for a game of soldiers, we're not going to be together anymore. I don't really know. I think maybe in some ways Fiz just can't admit to herself that Hope is a bit of a pyromaniac. But anyway, so she's got that as a bit of a secret. He catches Fiz on the phone then to someone saying, oh, I miss you and I need you there. So this is back to that phone person she was with a few weeks before. And after the usual jumping to conclusions that are part of the course in Soap, what transpires is that it's Hope's teaching assistant from Birmingham, Jade. Yes. So Fiz is like, oh, Jade, Hope misses you so much. You were so good with her back at that school. Can you come all the way up to Weatherfield, please, to live with us and be like a live-in tutor for my daughter? But it soon becomes apparent that Jane's friendliness towards her is just an act. Did I say Jude? Jade. Like, within the first episode or two that Jade's there, there was the scene where I think Hope had drawn a roller coaster picture or something, but it was a roller coaster that was crashing, and then Jade sits down at the dining room table and draws curly orange hair all over one of the victims. So she's clearly got it in for Fiz, but we don't know at this stage why that is.
Was it a premonition about what was going to happen at Christmas with the
with the Helter Skelter? Maybe it was, maybe. Fiz gets the job at Gary's Antiques place around that time. She also has a little mini side story with Chesney. This is when Sinead pops her clogs, and Chesney, although obviously he hadn't been going out with Sinead at the time, he's still pretty devastated with his ex-girlfriend dying before her time. So Fiz has to be a good little sympathetic sister there. She also has to go and have a visit to Scylla again for a bit at the end of the year because she gets in a car accident.
You've written Scylla gets involved in a car accident, which kind of makes it sound like two people crashed and then Scylla just ran out of her house going, hey, what are you doing out there? Why are you making a noise? I'm trying to sleep.
No, she was in a car accident.
I've got osteoporosis. You should be quiet.
She was
You're making me feel sick.
And while Fiz is away, this is when Jade makes the moves on Tyrone. Oh. So Fiz gets back and Jade is encouraging Hope to be naughty. She even, like, this is around November, she lights a bonfire, making Fiz and Tyrone think that it was Hope that did it. Finally, Fiz admits to Tyrone, yeah, my daughter is not cured. She set fire at the factory, she's doing all sorts, sorry, I've kept this from you. But they're like, we can't split up over this, let's try and work through our problems. So good for them. Very mature.
Long may it last.
Yes. They're told towards the end of the year that Hope can go back to school now. A place has been opened for her, and Fiz and Tyrone try to let Jade down gently. That by this point, it's been revealed to the audience, at least, that she is the stepdaughter of John Stape, and this was
Jade is his stepdaughter.
Sorry, not stepdaughter, daughter, isn't he?
Yeah.
Secret daughter, not stepdaughter. She is John's
There's a bit of a difference.
Actual secret daughter. So there was a little bit of a retconning going on in here, or a case of, well, we didn't say he didn't have a daughter and he didn't know about it. And it was, you kind of had to suspend disbelief a little bit with this one, and how coincidental it was that Hope went to a school where she was teaching. But anyway, yeah, so she's got this mega secret. Speaking of secret, when Jade goes back to Birmingham, Hope ends up FaceTiming her very regularly, just saying, "Oh, I miss you."
Tell you what,
and Jade is kind of telling her to get up to mischief, basically, make your life difficult, your parents' life difficult.
We talk a lot about technology on Coronation Street and like the internet and how characters like use it in different ways. But I think Hope is the most advanced technologically on everything she does is to do with like meddling on the internet.
Well, this is what kids are like these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
They know all about how iPads work.
She's the main one on Corrie that does it, isn't she?
She is. She's hooked to her
yeah.
iPad and her walkie-talkie as well. She sometimes likes to go a bit old school with that.
I bet she's on TikTok.
Oh yeah, I bet she is. Fiz ends up getting into a bit of hot water towards the end of 2019 when a decommissioned gun that she brought into the furniture shop turns out to be a working firearm. It's all absolutely all in order. Eventually, that's what gets used by Derek, remember him, to shoot up the street at Christmas. And Fiz is like, "Oh, that was kind of my fault. We knew that the gun was live." And Gary says, "We need to keep quiet about that one, Fiz, please." And that's the dilemma that they're left in the end of 2019.
Exactly. Then, in 2020, Jade sets Fiz and Tyrone up to make it look like they're giving her bruises. And
giving Hope bruises.
Hope bruises. So she does all this, she's
like, "Let's play nurses."
Yeah, and she takes photos of Hope with these fake bruises on her and stuff. And then Hope gets removed from Fiz and Tyrone's care to live with their closest living relative that they can find. OMG, it's Jade.
Yeah, I remember the scene where it gets revealed. Fiz and Tyrone are with the social worker or whoever it was, and they say, "Oh yeah, we've actually found another relative." And they're like, "What? There isn't anyone. Who could it be?" And they go into the room, and then Jade is like there and turns around in a chair and like, "It's me. I'm actually Hope's kind of sister."
That's right. So it turns out that when Jade was younger, she was told by her mum that John was her dad, and he had been perfectly normal before he met Fiz, and she turned him unhinged, and now Jade is out for revenge. And Jade does a load of like sneaking and gaslighting and stuff and trying to make out that Fiz knew all along who she was. And Fiz is like, "This is getting really bad. I need to come clean about that gun, because if I get caught, it's going to make everything even worse." So she does. She gets a 4-month sentence, suspended for 2 years. So that's interesting. Has it run out now? This was 2022, so...
This is 2020, yeah. So
2020,
so she's
run
fine
out probably now.
Yeah.
But it would have been... So it's some people don't know what a suspended sentence is. It basically means if you get in trouble in that 2-year period, your 4-month sentence will then kick in.
Yeah.
And also
so she has to keep her nose
did,
clean for 2 years.
Whatever you did you'll be in trouble for as well. She also gets a fine of £500, and everyone on the street shuns her, and they take Jade's side when there's a big argument in the pub over Hope, and Hope is now living back at number 9 with Tyrone. Hope ends up running away from home, and Fiz thinks it's Jade who snatched her, and then she beats her with a chopping board. I mean, that's terrible.
Yeah, she comes home one day, doesn't she? And I think it was when... Was it when Hope was still missing? I can't remember, but she goes home and Jade's there in the kitchen, and
she had a big, hefty, sturdy wooden chopping board.
Yes.
She just fells her with one blow.
Yeah.
See, if that John Stape book was real, you'd think there might be some kind of justification to explain why the author thinks that Hope is a demon child, just like John was. This would be in it, wouldn't it? Because everyone surrounding this poor child is a bit of a psychopath. Jade's a lunatic. Fiz is beating people with chopping boards. Tyrone's shagging everyone who doesn't...
I don't think that...
lay too still.
It never came out to the wider public that Fiz had done this, because...
well, Jade says, "I won't tell anybody as long as you let me see Hope."
Yeah.
So
She says, "I'll say that I've been mugged."
Unless one of the sources of the book was Jade.
It feels like Jade's just been forgotten about now.
Why wouldn't Jade... I really wish Jade had written the book, or Phill had written the book, because just having somebody random write it feels like...
There has been a bit of mention in Jade recently, but it feels like there should be more. But oh well.
Jade gets granted access to see Hope, and Hope just gets more and more turned against Fiz and prefers Jade over her. Then Jade makes another pass at Tyrone, and Hope realises that she's up to no good, and they all send her packing. What a feel-good story that was.
That was an unsatisfying ending to that story, I thought, because Hope, who had been so anti-Fiz, as soon as she saw that Jade kissed Tyrone, I would have thought that maybe she would say, "Oh, brilliant, my sister," and actually that does feel a bit weird. But anyway, it didn't make sense to me that she would so quickly turn her back on Jade, who she hero worshipped at this point.
So not much of Fiz for a little while because. I don't know.
Well, that was just the end of the end of the story. Yeah. So they gave the characters a bit of a rest for a lot of the rest of 2020, and there was a whole pandemic going on.
Tyrone and Fiz tease Evelyn about her blossoming romance with Arthur, and then there's a few episodes where they realise they're a bit boring and they've just turned into Jack and Vera. So they plan a meal, and then Gemma and Chesney invite themselves along as well, and that was like a funny double date. So it wasn't really that funny.
It was. They were definitely consigned to the filler bin in the second half of 2020. There's very, very little of them. But 2021 turned into, I would say, Fiz and Tyrone's biggest year, because this was the huge affair. And I remember when I heard about this that it was going to be coming up, and I was absolutely gutted, because I love Fiz and Tyrone as a couple, and the fact that Tyrone was going to go off with another woman, that didn't sit right with me. So I was very glad when they eventually got back together, and there was an awful lot of great TV that came out of this story. But it all started in early 2021 when Alina, who was she had been a slave nail technician, hadn't she, in the previous year? Yeah, she'd been trafficked, hadn't she? That's right. But she was then living on the street, but for whatever reason she didn't have anywhere to stay, so Tyrone says, "Oh yeah, you can come and stay with us for a bit." And there was a scene when she's walking around the house in a towel after having a shower, and Tyrone gets all a fluster with it and everything, and Fiz at the early stages of this finds it very amusing, because she's like, "Well, Alina is so much younger than us, can't believe that you fancy her a bit. That's quite quaint." But maybe if she'd nipped it in the bud a bit sooner, it wouldn't have turned into being quite as dramatic as it actually was. Because there's over the course of the next month or so, they had a couple of incidents between them where Fiz and Tyrone were shown to be, having a few difficulties in their marriage, and get opportunities for Fiz to have a go at him. Like there was one time when Tyrone helped somebody put some antiques in a van outside the shop, but then it turns out that he's helping them steal them, and then he goes to yoga lessons, and Alina's going to those as well, and this is when the two of them start to get a little bit close. Eventually,
all about
they have
downward
a
dog.
kiss. He does, yeah. Fiz finds out about her being at these classes, and she's still kind of just making fun of Tyrone for fancying her and saying, "You're just, I can't believe, what are you doing going after this young girl? Don't be so ridiculous." Because she doesn't realise.
Believe that he is.
No, yeah, she's just teasing him, isn't she? Like, I saw you look. Come on,
imagine
get away
if
with
you
it.
were.
Yeah.
You would never. She would never.
No, she wouldn't. But so she is starting to worry though that Tyrone's going off her a little bit. So then she remembers that they're engaged after about 5 years.
After we've been going on about it for 5 years on the podcast.
On the podcast, we're like, when are they getting married? When are they getting married? Yeah. And in 2021,
and every
Fiz
time
is like,
we did
right,
our predictions for the new year, we're like, right, Fiz and Tyrone are going to get married.
I know, and it's still not happened.
No.
But this is the closest that they got. Fiz decides to arrange a surprise Greek wedding for them, and she tells Tyrone about this, and he doesn't have the reaction that maybe she had hoped for.
Have they paid off that 10 grand yet?
Can't do that. And this is when they have this epic long scene, which is like one of my favourite scenes of the year, when he reveals that, yeah, I fancy Alina, I don't really fancy you anymore, we kissed. It was brilliant. It was a huge scene. It was like one of the longest scenes in years in Coronation Street. It was just all about,
it was one of the biggest scenes that you have outside of a just two-hander episode.
Yeah, she was like, "Oh, is it?" And she's like, "Oh, is it about the sex?" And I know that I'm not. We're not spring chickens anymore and everything. And he's like, "No, it's." He just kind of. I can't remember what. He's just like, it's like saying that he doesn't feel the same anymore. It's just really, really sad. Fiz Fiz ends up having another confrontation with Alina and is like, "Hands off my man," and they tried to keep things going, Fiz and Tyrone do, but Fiz is really, really struggling with Alina being around the street all the time. Tyrone also can't stop thinking about her, and eventually things just totally break down for the couple, and it's over. Tyrone moves in with Alina. Hope isn't impressed with her dad's new girlfriend. And then what transpires, or what happens after that is just lots of sniping between the two sides over the following month. Hope nearly gets herself hit by a car when she's in Alina's care, which gives Fiz an opportunity to have another go at Alina. She tries to get an injunction stopping Alina even seeing her daughter, but she eventually backs down. There's just a lot of kind of tit for tat going on between them. And at the end of the day, it's because Fiz still does love Tyrone. He's been a massive part of her life for many, many years, and she doesn't like being cruel to him.
Well, you've got to grow a backbone if you want to be in a relationship.
Fiz starts finding it quite funny.
Our interactions is being cruel to each other, isn't it?
Fiz starts finding it quite funny how clearly mismatched Tyrone and Alina are, because Alina's this young little thing who's into her TikTok videos and inspirational quotes and tight jeans and everything for Tyrone, and Fiz just...
There's also a bit of a cultural gap too, isn't there?
There really is.
She's trying to make him food that he doesn't really get, and her idea of a cool couple thing to do is to have a picture of you both standing in front of an exploding car. Yeah, and Fiz just finds this hilarious. There was a bit towards the end of this year that Gemma spoiled this earlier. Oh no! Kirsty dies. Sorry guys. Sorry Fiz does support Tyrone through that a little bit. But, I hated the fact they killed Kirsty for no reason at all. Really ridiculous. Anyway, she. I'm sorry. If I was a Coronation Street producer, I'd retcon this. I'd come in and be like, actually, she's alive again. What do you mean? Kirsty's not dead. I said she's dead healthy. she's doing dead good. Yeah, don't think so. I think there might have been a funeral. Anyway, Fiz looks like... Are you sure it wasn't just a really somber birthday party? Fiz looks like she wants to try again with Tyrone, but then he drops the bombshell that Alina is pregnant with his kid. And so she's like, right, cutting ties for good. Yeah. But not before she sells their story to the papers, because apparently there's not much going on in the news at that time, and the Weatherfield Recorder is really interested in the idea of Tyrone going off with a young... 1886? It was very weird. So can I just point out Fiz's hypocrisy here then? Go on then. That if she's going to complain about a book being written about her, she's got no leg to stand on when she was selling stories about Tyrone shagging about. I think, but I think that... No. There were no names mentioned in this article, and I think that's how the journalist was able to sell it to her. But everybody who knew them clearly knew who it was referring to. I'm sure we said this at the time, but that's absolutely ridiculous. I know. What do you mean? A story in the paper about two people, we're not going to name them, who shagged about, and one of them got pregnant? Yeah. This is compelling. I suppose it makes a change from, they're only collecting bins every other week now. What did you think about this bypass plans? Yeah, let's boycott them. Yeah. The buses have stopped running. Fiz starts dating Phill at this point. And this gets Tyrone insanely jealous. It really becomes apparent that both of them have got lingering feelings for each other. Fiz and Phill end up splitting up when she realises she's not completely over Tyrone either. But things kind of go a bit wrong for Alina and Tyrone then, because Hope, who is still, not Alina's biggest fan, gets massively jealous with the news that this new baby is on the horizon, and she sets fire to the cot. That sets Alina's flat ablaze, and we were kind of wondering at the time, are they going to say that Hope ends up killing the baby, and Alina does miscarry, but I think they kind of write it kind of hastily into the script that it wasn't anything to do. Yeah, she does. It wasn't anything to do with the fire, and it was just coincidental, but I don't know. I don't know. Confused because of what happens later. Yeah, so Fiz takes Hope on the run then, which Tyrone helps her keep a secret, but when the police catch up with her, Fiz says, oh no, yeah, because Fiz is trying to protect the fact that Hope set this fire, and Fiz says, oh no, it was me who started the fire. I did it, because a fair cop slang me in prison. But Tyrone says, no, police, it was Hope that did it. And she ends up getting charged with arson. And there was a bit of a drama, is she going to get... in trouble? Because she could either get charged with arson with intent to harm, or general
playful arson, which is what
Just
she
joking
ended
about.
up, just joking arson, which is what she ended up getting charged with. So she gets let off because she's under the age where you can really get in trouble for that kind of thing. I hope there aren't any young children, like 10-year-olds, thinking, brilliant, I'm going to set fire to things because I'm not going to get in trouble.
You
with
get
it,
in
but
trouble, I'll get in trouble, yeah.
I'm going to tell them that you're doing it on purpose. Tyrone and Fiz, during all of this, start to get closer again because they're thrown together with all this hope drama. But unfortunately, at the same time, Tyrone also manages to get Alina to think that he's proposed to her. There's kind of an accidental misunderstanding between them. But Alina then finds out about Hope setting the fire and that she has a history of arson, which Tyrone has neglected to tell her about. And she's like, what else haven't you told me? You know that your daughter was a pyromaniac. I'm pregnant. I've been left alone in the flat with her. What the hell? So she's like, no, I'm going. I'm leaving you.
This is
Tyrone
a failure of safeguarding.
Yes, it absolutely is. Tyrone had also shown that he was getting increasingly weary of having to go out and do these cool trendy things, and he kind of realised that she's not really the one for him. So she leaves him to go to Romania, and as she leaves, we kind of see her patting her belly or something. So there's a baby Tyrone out there somewhere, just ready to come back.
An incredibly satisfying airport kebab.
Maybe that's all it was. So brilliant. Tyrone's free to go back to Fiz, but oh no, Fiz is back seeing Phill again. So it was so close. Tyrone ends up trying to make friends with Phill for the girls' sake, which leads to some quite funny scenes. But Fiz is kind of, things are moving fast between her and Phill. She invites him to move in with her while his shower's out of action. This is when Phil's mum Mimi turns up.
Mimi.
Who is this amazing
Love her.
battle axe supreme.
She's a very posh. She's like a Mrs. Bouquet if Mrs. Bouquet was actually posh.
Yeah.
She's like completely oblivious to everybody else.
Yeah,
and
she's
obsessed
totally
with herself.
condescending, and she's like, "Oh, how quaint this terraced house is," and she's getting right up Fiz's nose with all of this. Tyrone ends up standing up for Fiz when Mimi takes controls of Phil's birthday party, kind of making all about her, and she also accidentally does the classic soap thing of broadcasting over a microphone to a room of people things that about Fiz that she doesn't actually want them to hear. But anyway, so Tyrone's standing up with Fiz, and it looks like maybe Fiz and Phill are going to be over, but he manages to sweet talk around. So Fiz says, right, no, look, I'm going to move in with Phill. We're going to sell number 9. Sorry, Tyrone, you're out. Evelyn, you're out as well. And Tyrone's not happy with this, but Evelyn says, look, for Fiz's sake, I think it's over.
For Fiz's sake.
Let's just cut our losses and run here. That takes us into this year. 2022,
there's New Year's drama when Joseph goes missing because he was jealous of the quads, and Hope takes herself off as well to find him. Then they decide they want to sell the house.
I thought he said that.
Nobody wants to buy the house.
That is correct.
because of the sinkhole. And Fiz and Phill say, okay, we'll just move into the new one and we'll keep number 9 on the market and Tyrone can live there and then eventually we'll be able to sell it and use the money. When the time comes to move, Fiz is clearly having regrets because she obviously just doing a bit of a Ken Bartlett where she walks sadly about and thinks about all the memories.
Well, she has been living there for best part of 20 years, on and off.
Tyrone goes to see this house that Fiz and Phill are living in, and it's definitely not in Cardiff.
Not in Cardiff, that
the
house.
The rumours are not right. It's got an apple tree and everything, and he's kind of jealous, but he's also missing Fiz, and I guess he feels a bit guilty maybe that she's getting this life that he could never have provided for her. A lot of weird feelings being dredged up by the fact that there's an apple tree in this beautiful Welsh house. Fiz is surprised to find that one of Phil's mates was prosecutor on John's trial. And again, I forgot about that link. I remember that Phill wanted to write a book, but I forgot about that other link. So this is when they all meet up for a meal, don't they?
Bistro,
Fiz and Phill meet up with some of Phil's mates, and Phil's mate's like, I know you. I prosecuted your husband for being a kiddie fiddler. And Fiz is like, oh no, I'm never going to get over the embarrassment of John Stape. Then it turns out that Phill is writing a true crime book about John, And he tries to convince her this is going to be a good thing because then everyone will hear her side of the story. And Fiz is incensed. I think there's a bit of guilt here because she knows that if they knew some of the things that she got up to, they might not be so sympathetic. So he grovels and deletes everything, and then he proposes to her, and she accepts. So the wedding draws nearer. Mimi shows up again. She's causing trouble. She's the mother-in-law from hell. She's not thrilled about her boy marrying his bit of rough.
Yeah, she thinks that Fiz is beneath her darling Philip.
Tyrone tries to convince Fiz not to marry Phill, but she goes through with it, gets as far as the ceremony, and then dumps him and starts a secret affair with Tyrone until she get an annulment, because they had to hide the fact that they were dating because she was scared that if Phill found out, he wouldn't give her the annulment, and they'd have to wait for a certain amount of time before they could have a separation.
Yeah,
because they did actually get married, but they didn't do anything after that. So Phill doesn't know that Tyrone and Fiz are back together, so he tries to win her back and tries to enlist Tyrone's help at various points, and Tyrone and he have this like weird kind of frenemy kind of deal. If he fails to win her back, and then he finds out about the pair of them being together, then he caves and agrees to annul the marriage. Then Fiz discovers about this book that we've been yapping on about John.
Another book
that's
What's
been published.
the chances of that? 2 books
And
about
it's not-
John Stape being written in the same year.
It's not even Phill that wrote it. And
No.
I still don't understand the reasoning behind that being the case. They try to get it stop it from being published. Hope finds out about it. She gets her hands on a copy. Then she starts hero worshipping her dad, which leads to very poor money management and hammer carrying.
It does, and that's where we're up to. Crikey, that was a lot, wasn't it? That was a very thorough, very thorough. People lasted this long and listening to it. That was everything, literally everything that Fiz has done in the last 10 years.
Just say an interesting thing that I noticed about this, and we didn't intentionally do it this way at all. That the first character profile of Fiz was all about her and John. And this one is all about her and Tyrone.
Yeah.
And I don't think all characters on Coronation Street will have a similar kind of deal. Some people are very independent. Their stories don't really revolve so much around relationships. But it's interesting that Fiz, really, her life so far on the street is like a game of 2 halves, isn't it?
Not necessarily halves.
Well, not completely equal halves.
No, because John was only together with Fiz for a couple of years. I was like,
I know,
2,
but
3, 4
if you
years
think
maybe.
about, the amount of episodes that she... I don't know, I'm just going to say it was a very significant part of Coronation Street history. And Fiz and Tyrone got up to a lot of things, but I don't think that any one story they're involved in is going to hold a candle to the John Stape saga in Coronation Street history.
No, probably not.
I would say that their relationship is probably enduring longer than his legacy, but no one particular thread sticks out.
I'd be interested to see how long this affair storyline stays in the memories of Coronation Street watchers, because it certainly felt like one of the big stories of last year. Some people absolutely loved it, and others were like, no, this isn't right for the characters. I'm fed up of Fiz, because I am sad to say that Fiz is definitely not a favourite character from lots of Coronation Street viewers, and I think people were a bit on Fiz overload last year, weren't they? But I was lapping it up, and it also, because you were definitely on. Well, we were both on Team Fiz during that, weren't we? And I think that storyline helped you to like Fiz even more.
There's definitely I think a rift between Coronation Street fans who are prepared to forgive Tyrone for his dalliances versus people who think that she shouldn't have never have taken him back. And I'm kind of conflicted about it, because the Stape family, the Dobb Stape family, is really a good family for lots of conflict and drama. But if I was Fiz's friend, I'd be like, why are you doing this to yourself? Don't take him back, he's a dog.
He is.
He's already shagged Gemma
I just can't help thinking that they absolutely belong to each other, and so few couples on Coronation Street do go the distance, that now we've got a couple that have been together for 10 years. I don't think they should split them
How
up.
did Tyrone and Maria split up? Did she just dump him?
I can't remember what happened.
I'm just thinking though, like if you think about Tyrone, he was married. Always kind of married. He was with Kirsty.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was engaged to her, wasn't he?
Then he snuck around with
Fiz.
Then he shagged Gemma when he was with Fiz, and then he shagged Alina when he was with Fiz. He's cheated.
He is a bit of a serial cheater.
And I don't think anybody really thinks of him as being a cheater.
Because he's just a bit of a teddy bear, isn't he? And everyone's just got bucket loads of forgiveness for Tyrone.
And I think he's a very attractive guy, but in a sort of a kind of boyish way. I think if he looked like Adam, nobody would forgive him. Because Adam's got that devilish kind of like glint in his eye, whereas Tyrone... But actually, Adam's probably a bit more faithful, isn't he? I don't know. I can't remember. Who remembers anything that Sarah and Adam have gotten up to? I don't even know.
So we said back in the original character profile that we didn't want Tyrone and Fiz to have any kind of romantic relationship with each other. Do you stand by that? Do you wish that they hadn't, or you saying you're glad that they did get together?
They could be platonic.
Yeah.
I like them as a family. I don't like Fiz taking, like I just said, I don't like Fiz taking him back after he cheated. I wish he'd never done that. But I think
they're a good match.
It's really important to sort of have that. There aren't many characters on Coronation Street who two characters are so intrinsically linked. I think, Nick and Leanne are another pair where their life story very much revolves around each other. And in a sense, you can sort of say a very similar thing about Toya and Spider. But
and Kevin and Sally, even though they've not been involved romantically for a long time now,
they're still in each other's lives. And I think that Corrie needs a sort of family that is relatable. And Tyrone and Fiz seem very relatable to me because, they're always beans on toast, watching telly. Kids go to school. I know that there's a lot of fantastical things that happen, but a lot of people can look at Fiz and Tyrone and go, they feel like familiar to me.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why when I heard about this affair happening, I thought this was a terrible idea, and I just had my fingers crossed all throughout last year that they would get back together each other. Even though, like you say, Tyrone doesn't deserve to be forgiven, I can very easily put that to one side and think, no, it's good that they're back together again. I love them. And I think that one of the other reasons I have to say why I enjoy Fiz so much and continue to like her is because she was one of the cast members that we met, wasn't she?
She was one of the first.
I think she was the first cast member that we met once the podcast got going.
But she didn't know that we were doing a podcast when we met her.
Yeah, she did.
Did she?
Yeah, she did. I'm pretty sure she did. Oh, I don't know.
Well, anyway,
this was within the first. This was maybe the third year of the podcast. Maybe we went up to. That must have been the second year. We went up to Manchester, and it was for episode 90 of the podcast, which you can still see listen to if you go to our blog or on the Podbean app. And we went to her restaurant Annie's, didn't we? And we'd read online people saying, oh, sometimes Jenny McAlpine kind of is around in her restaurant because this is something that she opened literally, I think it was a month after we did that last character profile. Annie's was open just off St Anne's Square in Manchester, and we took the chance and we went there and we had our Lancashire hot pot or whatever, and then Jenny came over and we're like, oh hello, come and speak to us.
Did you tell her that we had a podcast?
I cannot remember. You'd have to go back and listen to the episode to find out, but she very kindly took photographs with us, didn't she? And,
is that on the wall?
I think literally right behind us now is a picture of me, you and Jenny McAlpine. Yeah.
I was so drunk.
She was very, very nice. We've spoken to her a few times since then. She's come on the podcast for 2 interviews. Like after her second maternity leave, she came as a welcome back to Corrie interview. She's just the nicest.
She's very, very
warm,
lovely person.
Genuine, lovely, caring.
She's beautiful in
absolutely
real life.
lovely.
She's got fantastic hair.
Yeah.
She's a lovely person.
Yeah.
And we really, it is kind of like interesting how sometimes the characters hold a special meaning to us because of the actors and how we've met them and stuff. And I wouldn't say, I don't think we know Jenny McAlpine.
No.
But she holds a special place in our heart, does Fiz.
Yeah. because she was the first, and just because she was so absolutely lovely.
And also just because, you know, Fiz is a great character, really. I wouldn't say that she's my favourite character.
No, that's
but she's like the
say.
bread and butter of Coronation Street.
Yeah, totally.
Don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, we've been to Annie's quite a few times, I think.
Yeah, we just went there a couple of months ago, didn't we?
And I think if you're a Corrie fan and you want something to do that's not around Media City, I definitely would recommend that you go.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Annie's.
Yeah. They do nice meals there for evening. You can go and have a nice bacon balm cake there for your breakfast, and a nice cup of tea with the tea leaves in. Don't forget to put the strainer in, because I know that definitely at Annie's I've tried to pour myself a cup of tea and got tea leaves all over the place.
Do afternoon teas, but we've never had one.
No, I don't think we have.
No.
Anyway, I was doing a little bit of research online over the weekend, because one thing I realised from the original character profile is we didn't really get to find out much of Jenny McAlpine's backstory or any of like her early interviews about Fiz, and I found this one quote from her from the Daily People like 20 odd years ago, saying that her dream date would be Liam Gallagher.
Nice.
I wonder whether that's still the same now. Apparently, she said he's drop dead gorgeous. I love everything about him. Even his walk turns me on.
Oh God.
I want to confront Jenny with that quote now until she says the same thing.
Do not confront any Michael. If you start going around confronting people with what they said 20 years ago,
just a joke.
They're going to start coming back to you with things you said last week.
That's true. She also said that Fiz can be a bit scatty, and it really annoyed her when people confused Fiz with Jenny, and there is definitely a difference between the two of them. Jenny is always has come across as a very sort of switched on.
She seems very
bright,
calm and yes,
level-headed, kind of just lovely. Intelligent person,
earth.
yeah, and she says, "Oh, it's terrible when people point at you in the street and say, there's that dumb bird from Coronation Street." I think, you know, modern Fiz is definitely closer to Jenny McAlpine than early Fiz was, but then I don't know what early Jenny McAlpine was like, so maybe she was a bit chaotic back then.
This is interesting, all this stuff that you've just found here about her comedy.
Yeah, because back in the day, she was a stand-up comic. She spent 4 years doing stand-up comedy, did Jenny McAlpine. She even came second in the Young Comedian of the Year competition 2 years in a row. This is this competition that Fanta apparently
well
run.
Done. Can I just say, being a comedian is one of the bravest things.
I know.
I think that's my secret calling in life, but I would never dare to stand up in front of a room. Can you imagine standing in front of a room of people and trying to make them laugh? It sounds like the hardest job in the world.
I mean,
and the thing about comedians is they make it look very easy, but my goodness.
Yeah, that's why I'd love to be able to see her do something like this. I'd like to have seen a recording of her, or even see if she still does it now. I mean, we didn't really watch her. I think we saw her entrance to I'm a Celebrity.
I wonder if they would ever do a you know, we have all these talent shows of singing or like dancing or whatever. Why don't we have a talent show of people who aren't comedians doing comedy? Would it just be too painful?
I don't know.
Because I think a lot of people would not.
Well,
make
you can book Jenny McAlpine as an after dinner speaker. I found a website where
how much?
I don't. It didn't say. I think you could put a request in.
Maybe next time we go to Annie's, we'll see if they do a special after dinner package.
Yeah.
Where she can turn up and sort of talk to us about what we just have for pudding or something.
Yeah, make a few jokes out of it. Anyway, I thought that was quite funny. She said, and again, this was like 20 years ago, so when she was very, very young, she said, "Oh, I can't abide serious people, and I'm not afraid of being silly or having people laugh at me."
Aww.
It's like it's a completely different person, isn't it? But like you said, we don't know Jenny, but from what little interaction we've had with her, it seems like it was a lifetime ago, really.
I was on an interview with her, but you did one.
Yeah. Oh, wait, did you do one with her as well?
Yeah, but I really was terrible in it. I think that was the one that made me realise that I shouldn't
do the interviews and leave it to me. Yeah, no, she's lovely.
Well, she was. You both were very professional. I was just an idiot.
I'm sure that's not true.
Well, she said she didn't ever want to be. No, it wasn't her ambition to become an actress, but it was more like that's how she ended up.
Yeah, well, she started off in showbiz with the stand-up comedy, and then it just kind of was a natural progression for her.
She said, "I couldn't think of anything else I wanted to do. I knew I wasn't going to be a nuclear physicist. All my reports said I'd do better if I stopped talking, which I couldn't have been more wrong. I spent a week wanting to be a barmaid after seeing Bet Lynch. Other than that, acting is the only thing I fancy doing." I love that.
She's not been in a whole lot either. I mean, I'd forgotten or didn't know.
Why would she have had time? She got into Corrie very young. She was doing Fanta, Young Comedian of the Year, won that 2 years in a row, and then she must have jumped straight into Corrie.
Well, no, she was in Emmerdale for a couple of years. She was like 3 episodes of Emmerdale playing a character called Michelle Morley, and I can't find anything about this character, but she was in it like 2 episodes in 99 and 1 episode in 2000 or something. But yeah, after that it's just been Corrie, and apparently she auditioned for the role of Corrie with her arm in a sling. And still was able to wow the judges.
Rough and ready,
Not the
then.
Judges. What do you call it? Casting agents.
People.
Yeah. And another little fascinating factoid I found about her was
factoid means...
Fact, thank you. Was 2020 in December, she became the voice of the new Burnley bus company, Which Way Buses, that run in Burnley, Walthamstow and Manchester. So she is, if you go on a bus around there and you recognise her dulcet tones, and then that's why. She has got a very nice, relatable voice, hasn't she?
A very, I think, I don't know whether
it's cosy sounding
translates to other countries, but in the UK, we definitely, well, you guys know we stereotype accents, but her voice is kind of a very warm northern sort of, you can trust me, I know what I'm talking about, I am down to earth, and this is this is what's going on.
Yeah, well, if you go to...
And she also did Supermarket Sweep.
She did. Yeah, she was the... it's just, that was us last year or the year before, wasn't it?
She's very good at voice acting.
Yeah, well, if you go to haveryvoices.co.uk, you can hear some voice reels of her. So it's like, here's Jennifer Calpine in some adverts.
Quite a lot of actors
Jennifer Calpine doing
voice reels.
Doing some stories or anything. But yeah,
I'm surprised she hasn't done any game stuff.
No, well, I
don't know if she has done.
I don't know. I mean, I think once you're in on Corrie, there's only so much they let you do. But anyway, so that's kind of Fiz. Still absolutely love her, and I don't think that she deserves the stick that she gets from people.
Oh, I definitely agree with that.
But I get why people don't like her, and she winds people up because she is often characterised as being a bit of a naggy wife to Tyrone.
You know what I think of that?
Yeah, I know, and I think that sometimes he deserves it, and she just wants to hold her family together. Really,
I say it takes 2 to nag.
It was interesting. We've had the discussion before on the podcast about our Tyrone and Phiz, the new
Behind
Jack and
every
Vera.
nagging woman is a man who won't take the bins out.
We've talked before about how her and Tyrone are often compared to Jack and Vera, and said, well, I don't think they really are they? Because...
Well, I'm going to say something here
that
might be a bit controversial in Coronation Street fan circles, but I reckon that Fiz and Tyrone are what people think Jack and Vera were.
How do you mean?
Well, if you were to say, why are Jack and Vera so popular to some people who were only passingly familiar with them or hadn't seen the episodes for a long time, they'd be like, they bickered and stuff, but they loved each other. They were just very, very normal couple. They were funny to watch, that kind of stuff. But, actually they were violent, rude. They cheated on each other.
They
were vile.
Although that's like Tyrone.
I know, but I think that Jack and Vera, there's a lot of rose-tinted glasses.
There really are.
For those two. And I'm not going to diminish their iconic status at all. Not at all. Absolutely not. But I think that they really, Fiz and Tyrone are a lot more like them than some people want to believe, if that makes any sense. Because like you just said, there's a lot of cheating going on. I think the real thing that's missing between Tyrone and Fiz is the humour that Jack and Vera had. But I think that if you give them a chance, they'll do it. Because, Alan Housel sometimes as Tyrone will do funny impressions of other characters.
Well, he could do a great Jack Duckworth. Yeah.
They just don't give him a chance. And obviously, Jenny McAlpine must be, she's got this vein of comedic talent that has kind of been untapped a bit. I wouldn't say that Fiz is funny.
No, but I think she was funnier back in the early days, wasn't she? When she was that little bit of a rascal.
The way that she came in as that kind of brash, unintimidated, very in-your-face young girl, it makes a lot of sense now. You told me that she was a young comedian when she came in. You can really get that sense that she was definitely putting on a bit more of a front. Whereas now, Fiz feels more like a real person.
Do you remember that Tiger t-shirt that she used to wear? That was a staple of her wardrobe, wasn't it? It was so
Fiz.
loud. And her hair was very, very, very red in those olden days. The other thing that I was thinking about Jack and Vera and comparisons there is that one of Vera's traits was that how she would always forgive Terry and never believe that he would do anything wrong. And no matter how many times he got himself in trouble, no matter how many times he was in jail or conned people or did wrong to Vera, even when he disappeared when he was supposed to be giving her a kidney or whatever. Vera would still forgive him, and I'm wondering whether they might go down that route with Fiz and Hope, and it looks like they kind of already are, aren't they? It feels like Fiz will very easily just say, oh, poor Fiz, poor Hope, oh, well done, you've said sorry, I love you, let's have a hug. And she's keeping secrets from Tyrone when she knows that Hope has done something naughty. And I think that if Hope is going to develop into being a villainous character, could she even be the new Terry Duckworth?
I'm wondering,
is Fiz going to go down the same route as Vera did?
No, I'm thinking something different here, because I think there's definitely a lot to be said, whether in real life or not. I don't want to get into it, but in fiction, certainly, the idea of mothers and their sons, and this kind of indulgence and a weird kind of special, my special boy. Jack, Vera and Terry had.
Yeah.
I think that you're going to see, and it could be developing right now with the way Tyrone's acting with Hope, a bit of a daddy's girl situation, where Tyrone's the indulgent one over Hope's evilness, and he's the one that's got the blinders on. Maybe. And I think that would be a really interesting way to flip it. And obviously there's a lot of gender stuff that's involved in, this kind of very weird relationship between daddy's girls and, mummy's boys and all this stuff. But that really feels like a way of bringing Jack and Vera's legacy into the modern age with these characters we've got now.
Yeah. Well,
and
we'll
the thing
just have
is,
to wait and see.
with Terry and Jack and Vera, is that you never really saw Terry's origin story, did you?
No, he just showed up as a fully grown. I think
Evil
was
man.
was he still like an older teenager when he first came in? Or was he in his early 20s? I can't remember.
Well, he was a young lad, wasn't he? Whereas now Hope, we've seen her born.
Yeah.
I kind of love that idea, and I think Coronation Street is one of its strengths, is that it can show stories and legacies and kind of myths in the making. Yeah,
it would be interesting because Fiz didn't really know Terry particularly. I think their paths may have crossed briefly, but Tyrone definitely knew what a bad penny Terry was. And
it'd be funny if he just couldn't recognise it in his own daughter.
Because he was always saying to Vera, like, just same as Jack was.
Come on, what are you doing?
You can see what he's like.
He's doing,
If he does it again, repeating the mistakes.
If they haven't thought of that, I'm sure they
go,
have.
Storyliners.
If they haven't thought of that, please take that idea, because I bloody love it. And the thing about Hope is that you can do that with her character, because, even if you want to recast, you can still do it that way.
And could be an opportunity for Terry Duckworth to come back on the street again, just to really flag up and go, whoa, look everybody, this is a similar situation.
Imagine Hope and Terry
Yeah.
Joining forces. It's brilliant.
Oh gosh, imagine if like once she grows up and she's in her early 20s, then Terry ends up wooing her with this huge age gap.
God. Well, we'll leave you.
You know that Coronation Street's got really desperate if they go down that.
Yeah, we'll leave you with that thought. And if you've waded through an hour and 40 minutes, which is, you could have watched the film, couldn't you?
I can't believe it's been this long. This is the longest character profile we've done in a jolly long time. But it is a special character to our hearts.
You definitely deserve to take that little nugget of fun future plot musings with you as you go about your day.
Thank you everybody for listening. Tell us your thoughts on this Fiz, unless you really, really hate her.
No,
you can if you want to. You can
just don't be mean.
Don't be mean to her because it'll make us sad because we like her. But you can say nasty things about her if you like to, but justify your opinions. And I will totally accept that I can be biased and be very forgiving of certain things because she is a particularly special character to me.
Well, just to say, as we close out, to thank you to Coronation Street, and thank you to Fiz, and thank you to Jenny McAlpine for bringing us a very interesting character that has taken a long time to discuss this evening.
Yeah, and as like we said, 17th character in the top 100 appearances on Coronation Street. That means that gives her a legacy status.
It means something,
like
for sure.
Like it or not, I'm afraid. So, and I do.